Good evening, everyone. My name is Neha and I welcome you all to our webinar on Understanding Bullying, Fostering Safer Childhoods, hosted by VIBGYOR Group of Schools. At VIBGYOR, we believe in creating emotionally and physically safe spaces in the early years of our children. We believe it's a fundamental for their long-term well-being and development. Today's session is convened to focus one of such most sensitive and impactful topics in our child's life, bullying. To discuss this crucial topic, we have with us Ms. Poorvasha Mathur, a counseling psychologist and child specialist. Poorvasha has 5 years of experience as a therapist. She blends therapeutic techniques and play-based methods, including humor and everyday references that resonate with children and young people. This helps in building resilience and find joy and healthy habits in them. In our session today, Poorvasha is going to guide us through key topics like bullying versus teasing, why do children bully, some warning signs and identification, some common issues that are faced by children, and what parents can do to support their children. Our goal for today is to help you all learn and feel more at ease and give you practical ways to make your child's environment safer and kinder, whether they are at home or in the world outside. So without any further delay, let's get going in our webinar and let's start. Over to you, Poorvasha.
Thank you, Sneha. Thank you so much. Am I audible? You can hear me? Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in. As Neha already mentioned, my name is Poorvasha. I have been working as a therapist since 5 years now, and I majorly work with kids and adolescents. And today, the goal of this workshop is for us to have a discussion around majorly the topic of bullying. And the couple of things that we will be discussing today would be why usually our kids end up either getting bullied or why kids end up bullying other kids, how to understand it a little bit better, how as parents and adults, how can we sort of manage it a little bit better and work with our kids to help them understand things better. So I'm going to start with my presentation. I do have certain topics that I wanted to discuss with all of you, but this workshop is majorly more of a discussion, and I would completely appreciate for all of you to keep using the chat box to put in questions, put in your perspectives, your thoughts, and even certain events or incidents that you want to share. That would be really helpful, and we'll keep addressing them as we go ahead. Second. All right. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, Poorvasha.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So we start with the basic understanding of this is something that we as adults and even with kids, we struggle a lot with how to identify or differentiate between what is bullying versus what is teasing. And nowadays I do hear parents also questioning a lot that, you know, this idea or this concept of bullying is sometimes so spoken about or so complicated that how do we identify whether it's sometimes kids are just teasing each other, which is very playful and harmless, and when does it cross the line, and when do we identify the same teasing or playfulness as something which can be considered as bullying. So to make it in a very simple understanding, what I could identify in my experience or how to differentiate between these two, teasing is something that's a very playful thing, that's a very harmless thing, and mostly it's very mutual. And you know, all kids get teased by either their siblings or their friends, sometimes even relatives, and that's a very appropriate thing because it also teaches kids how to be okay with humor. But the one thing with teasing is that it's a very playful. The intentions when you're teasing someone is not to harm them. It's not to being unkind towards them, but it's in a more of a cheeky and playful way. Now, similarly, when teasing becomes into something which is intentionally to harm someone, which is intentionally to be mean towards someone, and something which is very consistent and persistent. You know, with bullying, you will see it's not a one-time thing or it's not a two-time thing. A particular kid is someone who's picked up consistently, or a group of people probably pick on that particular kid very persistently and very consistently over the period of long time, and the intentions behind it is not very playful, but it's to harm the other kid, or it's to harm or it's to sort of being mean to the other kid, or it's a very unkind situation. And when something is intentionally being hurtful and consistent, that's where it crosses the line from teasing into bullying. So the major aspect which differentiates between these two, teasing and bullying, is how consistent and persistent the child is being faced by with these comments or these teasing, and what's the intention behind it. Now, a lot of times when you talk to kids, you can gauge a little bit of their intention, that why you did something like that, to why you said something like this to this particular kid, or why did you this particular action to this kid. Was it because you wanted to genuinely be mean to this person, or were you angry because of that you did this to the child, or you just didn't know the consequences of your actions? Because with very young kids, that also can happen very often, where they might not understand the gravity of the consequences of their actions. And in certain situations like these, then it's the role of adults, us as adults and parents, to sort of teach them understanding of that, where to draw the line, or how much can you tease a child, but when does that teasing can get into bullying, and intention matters here a lot. So the major difference between these two things is the intention, with what intention is the child doing that to another child, and the consistency of it. If the same child is getting picked again and again and again, or if your child is picking on another child, the similar child again and again for some reason, then very clearly that can be categorized as bullying. Now, the other question that comes up a lot is, when a child is getting bullied, there's a lot of conversation around it, or we are able to understand or pick up on those signs. But there's not a lot of conversation regarding, why do kids bully at the first place? What are the reasons that make a child bully other kids at the first place? And I wanted to discuss few pointers and few most common reasons that I could identify in my experience talking to kids and parents, that I figure that are the top factors or top reasons with respect to why do kids end up bullying other kids around them. Now, one thing that we have to very fundamentally understand is that when a child is being a bully, the child who is being getting bullied is also definitely going through a lot of stress and overwhelm because they are getting bullied. But at the same time, a child who is bullying the other child is also most of the time going through a very stressful and hurtful situation by themselves. Most of the time, bullying is an act of projection. As adults also, a lot of times when we are overwhelmed, when we are angry, when things are out of control, we don't know what to do, we end up sort of projecting our emotions to something else. We'll probably yell at somebody, we'll punch somebody, we'll watch an angry movie, we'll go to gym, or we'll do something or the other so that we can feel better, we can release our emotions better. But with kids, because they're not able to understand what probably is bugging them, or why they are feeling, or what they are feeling, they tend to emote their emotions outwardly in the form of bullying as well. Now, couple of things that we need to focus on when we talk about why do kids bully is, couple of reasons are to fit in a group. When we are making friends, when we are trying to, find our group, everybody wants to be a part of a group. Everybody wants to find that clan where they fit in, where they have fun. And usually these clans or these groupism is based on commonalities, that how much common are you with me so that I can be friends with you. And with kids nowadays, it's also about popularity, that everybody wants to be a part of that popular group, and everybody wants to do anything to be a part of or associated with kids who are stereotypically very popular. Now, in order to do that, we do end up, or kids do end up, pinning other kids down just to show that, oh, I am better than you. And they might not comprehend the intensity of it, but that's a consequence of their action. But one of the reasons could be because they want to fit in a group, or they want to just belong to a particular group, and therefore they feel like, because I want to belong to a group, I need to pin some other people down or other kids down. I have to be better than them in some way. So they end up bullying other kids or picking on some other kids so that they can be seen as, oh, this child is very cool, or this child, can be a friend and stuff like that. The second point which I mentioned of gaining control is not identified very often. It's a very subtle thing that keeps building up. It has to do more with how parents or us and adults usually treat our kids. A lot of times, in order to protect the child, we tend to tell the child what to do or what not to do, and therefore we tend to not give them a lot of choices or options. We just tell them that, okay, you should do this, you should do that, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. The thing with this is that when you decrease the space for choices and decision making for a child, it automatically makes the child a little uncomfortable, and they want something to be controlled. Like, they want something of their own that they can control. It could be as small as deciding what I want to wear today, or deciding which homework I want to do today, which subject I want to do first. These tiny choices, they really help the child to boost their confidence, to make their choices and feel better about themselves. But when we don't usually give children a lot of space to make choices and decisions, they tend to try gaining control by bullying other people. So, a lot of times teachers and us as parents complain about, or we hear complaints about our kids that, oh, the kid is picking up other children's property, or, they're stealing, or they are just troubling the other kids, not letting them do their homework and all of that. And these tiny incidents, a lot of times, are a representation of kids just trying to gain control. That at home, I'm not able to make any choices. Maybe at playground, I'm not able to make any choices. In school, I can't make any choices. I might as well can control someone else who's a friend, or who's someone who cannot stand up on their own, and they feel better with it. So gaining control is one of the reasons kids end up bullying a lot. Attract attention. This has to go very well with a child who's feeling neglected. A lot of times at home, when probably there are a lot of siblings around, or when parents are not around, or due to any reason, if a child is feeling neglected very consistently, either at home or in school or even other places that they're going, to attract attention, to be seen, so that people pay attention to me, they also tend to act as bully. Because whether it's a bad spotlight or a good spotlight, at least the child is getting some attention. So they feel like I'm being seen at least. So even neglect has to do a lot with a child turning into a bully. Releasing emotions and overwhelm. This goes very well with if a child is experiencing a lot of abuse at home. Abuse in the sense, like, if the environment at home is a little bit chaotic, where people around the child are fighting a lot, or if the child can hear a lot of fights or a lot of arguments, obviously the child becomes very overwhelmed, and the child doesn't know how to express themselves, don't know whom to talk to, because the house environment is very chaotic. Then, in order to release their emotions, they end up bullying other kids. They end up, expressing their anger on other kids. They end up expressing their sadness on other kids and stuff like that. So that is also one of the reasons kids tend to end up being a bully. Thinking this behavior is appropriate, that comes again a lot with the environment that they are in. A lot of times as adults, we are not very mindful of what language we are using or how we are reacting around kids, but kids are very smart in picking up these things. So, if I don't like something and I'm really angry, I'll probably just go and yell at my mom that, oh, I don't like this. What is this? Why did you do this? But what the child is picking up from the head behavior is that, oh, if you don't like something, you can just go and yell at other person, and that's absolutely all right. Similarly, using certain words, if they've heard people around them, either adults or other parents, using those words very nonchalantly in their house without any consequences, for them that behavior is extremely appropriate, and for them they don't find any problem in that behavior. So they end up replicating it to the other kids. But then we categorize it as something which is not appropriate. So a lot of times kids don't even know it's not appropriate, because for them it's a general household thing, or it's a very, very appropriate behavior that they have sort of experienced most of their lives. Protecting them from getting hurt. I think I can give you an example for this because this just happened very, very recently. I think there was a child I was working with, 7 years old child, and the child do not like, they really struggle with the subject math. They are very slow at it. They take some time to comprehend the numbers. They find it basically very, very difficult. But they get picked on it by other kids, and even their parents are a little mean sometimes towards them, that, oh, you're stupid, you're not able to do that. Other kids pick up on that child that, oh, see, we are able to do it so quickly, but you take so much of time and all of that. So what they realize is, what the child realized is that, oh, maybe if I say that I don't like the subject math, instead of actually expressing that I really struggle with it and I really want help, maybe that would be a better way and people won't bully me. So now, to protect themselves from getting hurt and protect themselves from people picking on that particular topic, the child is like, yeah, I just don't like doing math, so I'm not going to do math. So the entire math class, they don't do anything. They just sit, and they've become very deed in that sense, very stubborn in that sense. But it's all coming from a place of them protecting themselves. So a lot of times, kids who bully other kids are also struggling themselves with so much that in order to protect themselves, that I shouldn't get hurt, they end up being bullies to other people. So these are usually common things that children go through when they are being bullied towards other people or other kids. But the fundamental thing for us to understand is, a child who is getting bullied is suffering as much as a child who is bullying the other child. There has to be a lot of suffering that a child is doing to be so unkind and mean to someone else as well. Moving ahead, I'm just going to quickly touch upon the types of bullying. I'm pretty sure we all are very aware nowadays of basic types of bullying. Kids go through physical bullying, which is like hitting other kids, punching other kids, damaging property, something that's very, very common nowadays that kids end up doing. Either they'll take something and hide it in their bag, or they'll hide someone else's property somewhere in the form of teasing and everything. But again, how much it can escalate, like a lot of times this complaint comes where a child has stolen or taken someone else's notebook and hidden it. But hiding a notebook, especially during exams or when tests are there, can be really, really stressful for the other kid. So a lot of times kids end up doing this in the form of, oh, it's playful and I'm just teasing the other kid. But the intensity and the gravity of it is so much that it ends up being as bullying. So physical bullying includes that as well. Verbal bullying includes a lot of name calling. I think name calling is one of the common form of bullying and very underrated form of bullying that all of us do. Now, I'm going to emphasize on name calling a little bit more here, because name calling is so normalized and so common in our culture that sometimes we as adults also don't really consider it as inappropriate. Like shaming someone or calling someone depending on how they look, what their body type is, what is the color of their skin, what kind of clothes they're wearing, their gender. It's so common. And when we talk to other adults also, we talk like this. So kids pick up on it. However, why it's very important for us to be very mindful of it is because when you talk like this around kids, or when kids name call each other based on either color, either body weight, either dressing sense, or either gender, it becomes a very important part of their personality. They take it as it's a part of them, and it's very hard for it to shake off. So verbal bullying is something that happens very, very commonly, but we don't really take it very seriously. But I think we should take it seriously because it's not okay, and it stays with the child for the longest amount of their lives. Social exclusion, as we discussed a little bit earlier, is leaving someone out of the group deliberately. Spreading rumors and lies is also something that happens very, very often nowadays. The rumor could be as silly as that, oh, this girl doesn't take bath. And as an adult, when we look into it, we might not find it as something that is very serious. But for a child who's 7-year-old dealing with it, it's a very, very serious situation that people think that they don't take bath every day. And there are rumors around it. So rumors and lies about people for social exclusion is something that happens very, very often. And a lot of times we really dismiss it when the child is telling us about it. Cyberbullying is again something that has increased a lot lately, also because kids nowadays use a lot of tech and they're required to use a lot of tech. Kids as young as 6 years old now have access to either some or the other kind of tech. Mostly a lot of times it has to be for school purpose and tests and everything. But even there, kids do exchange mean comments. Like just couple weeks ago, there was an 8-year-old child who was telling me herself that, they have a group of 4 people, and out of 4 people, one person they had a fight or something. Now what the other 3 girls are doing, they're emailing mean things to the 4th child. And it has been consistently happening over the period of 3-4 weeks. So, kids are using as smallest, or we can't even think of the mediums that they're using, but using tech to sort of being mean to other kids or being unkind to other kids has increased a lot, and that's happening very, very commonly. Moving ahead is I wanted to discuss some warning signs. Now, when I say warning signs, these warning signs can be for both the kind of kids, either if a child is going through bullying or a child who might be a bully themselves. For both the children, these are certain warning signs that they might show. And as adults, it's important for us to be aware of these warning signs so that we can pick up on it, or we can sort of notice when our child is struggling. Now, one thing that I want to mention about it is that they don't work in isolation. So it's not like out of all these signs, if a child is experiencing one sign, that means that the child is struggling. Usually, in most of the cases, it's a combination of multiple things. So to name a few is inconsistency in usual pattern of behavior. If your child has a usual pattern of behavior and the child is not behaving in the same way. So for example, if a child who is playful, who is funny, who makes jokes, is suddenly now not making so much jokes, not interacting so much, is sort of becoming dull, that is a little inconsistency in their usual pattern of behavior. Similarly, a child who's very outspoken. This confusion comes in a lot when a child is an introvert. Like a lot of parents ask me that, oh, my child is already an introvert. They already don't interact a lot with other kids or with me. How do I differentiate whether this is a warning sign or not? So even with an introvert kid, the child would be an introvert probably to other kids or to other people. But there still would be things that the child would like to do by themselves, whether it's watching something, whether it's playing something, whether it's drawing. And if they're not doing, or there are certain changes in the usual pattern of behavior that they're used to do, that could be one of the signs that there's something might be off. Sleep and appetite is one of the things, for the first things that get affected. Either the child will sleep too much or too less, or whether the child will eat too less or too much. That is something that's going to get affected. Socially being aloof, someone who likes to play with others, who likes to go out, might not want to go out anymore, might want to just stay by themselves, might not want to interact with anybody else. Increased in crime spells. A lot of times these things can be seen as though the child is being moody or the child is just being a brat. But a lot of times it's a cry for help, because the child doesn't know how to express anything apart from just crying or just feeling irritable or feeling angry. Constant complaint from school about inattention, about focus, about distraction. Like as we discussed a little bit earlier, that how when a child is overwhelmed themselves, the mind is not calm, so they won't be able to sit at one place and pay attention to studies or pay attention to their tests. So they'll wander around, they'll try to disturb other kids, they'll try to daydream, not focus, not answer questions if the teacher is asking something. Complaints about physical discomfort. This is also one of the common complaints that kids might do. They might complain about tummy ache. They might complain about headaches. Now, to tell you that and this is applicable for kids as much as it's applicable for adults, that if we are feeling way too stressed or we are feeling anxious, our anxiety is directly related to how we are feeling in the tummy. Even as adults, when we are feeling a little anxious, our tummy will do something weird. Either will growl, either will poop too much, either will poop too less, or something will be affected, or a tummy will be affected. It's very similar to kids. So if a kid is complaining about constant tummy aches or constant aches in the tummy, something related to the tummy, that could be one of the signs that the child might be feeling a little anxious or might be feeling a little stressed. But again, constant is the keyword here, that if the child is constantly feeling it for the over more than like a week or something, if they're having tummy issues, but they're very much related to how they're feeling automatically because they're not able to pay attention. So decline in performance, spending too much time on gadgets can also be one of the signs, because when they're spending too much time on gadgets, they're automatically avoiding any other interaction. They're just being by themselves. So it's very much connected to being socially aloof. Not engaging in things that they used to enjoy before, which is also very much connected to inconsistency in pattern of behavior. Decreased confidence and self-esteem. A child who is experiencing bullying will automatically experience very decreased self-confidence and self-esteem because of mostly constant fear that they might be experiencing. They might be scared of going to school, they might be scared of some particular child who is bullying them. So a lot of fear. Because of that, they automatically lose their self-esteem. And the last part is indecisiveness. A lot of times kids are not able to being decisive or not able to make choices because also they feel very hazy in their mind or they're too scared. And that can be, if you trace it back with other and clubbed with other signs, it could be a sign of probably them struggling with something or probably them getting bullied. So these are the common warning signs that we need to keep in the back of our minds so that we can pick up on it if the child is experiencing something like that. I'm going to move forward. Okay, just going to quickly touch upon the top 3 most common issues faced by kids nowadays when it comes to bullying. As we discussed, name calling. I'm going to again emphasize on the fact of name calling, that a lot of times as adults, we don't really consider name calling, or when a child is coming to us and telling us that, oh, my friend is calling me fat, or my friend is calling me dark skinned, or my friend is calling me this or that. We don't really pay so much attention, or we tell the child that it's okay, you don't pay attention to it. But it's something that really impacts a child, especially young kids. Like as and when the child grows, the child is able to understand that it might not be a big deal, but for a very young child it is a very big deal. And as parents or as adults, we really need to be very considerate to the child and let the other children know that it's not okay and it's very inappropriate to name call kids based on these factors. Social isolation and groupism is again something that they experience very often, that we have discussed earlier. And online bullying. Online bullying, just today, it's funny, just today I was talking to a kid who was 8 years old, and I told that child that, I have a workshop today with kids. Is there something you want me to tell the parents? And very funnily, the 8-year-old told me that, oh yeah, can you please tell the parents that when we watch YouTube, even on the comments, there are mean things that we can say to each other. And that really just blew my mind, because I'm like, okay, do you guys really do that? And she's like, yeah, that happens a lot. And I think you should tell the parents. I was like, okay, sure, I will let them know. So this is a tip that was shared by me today by an 8-year-old, and she wanted me to tell all of you. So these are the common issues that kids face. Now, coming to what can parents do, or what can also adults, all of us as adults do. Now, I have to address that as a parent, dealing with all of this is in itself very extremely overwhelming, and it's really stressful. But a couple of things that I wanted to mention for us to have a discussion on is, Identifying and reflecting, like as we discussed about warning signs, if all of us are aware a little bit about what certain signs are for us to watch out if in case to identify a child is struggling or not, that would be really helpful. So warning signs and identifying warning signs is extremely important. Taking a moment to reflect our own behavior. The thing is that kids reflect or project the behaviors that they see around them. Young kids are able to identify what is good or what is bad only what they see around them, and primarily through the people who they're staying with, whether it's parents or grandparents. So their understanding of good or bad comes into play only by seeing what my parents think is good or bad. So if, as parents also, we would have to be very mindful of what examples are we setting, what kind of behavior are we projecting in front of our children, what kind of language are we using in front of our children. And that needs to be taken care of, because kids literally understand and pick up anything and they will project it on other people as well. So we would have to be mindful about what we are representing as well. Express emotions. This is something that honestly a lot of kids struggle with. Forget about kids, a lot of adults, a lot of us might also struggle with is expressing emotions. We are not really taught to talk about emotions or identify emotions or even discuss emotions. And a lot of the kids end up getting bullied or becoming a bully because they don't know how to express their emotions. So they need some action so that they can release their emotions. If we can be a little bit more considerate in when you're talking to each other, even in households, when you're talking to each other, when you're talking to the kids, maybe using a little bit of more emotional expressions so that they also become aware of what they're feeling and also see what other people are feeling. That would be really helpful. Ask your kids about how their day was, take interest in how their day was, ask them about what they did, what they liked, and also use emotional words. One thing that I really use with my young clients that works really well is this emotion chart. Like this is called an emotion chart, okay? And a lot of times, obviously, we don't know how we are feeling because it's confusing. But just looking at this chart and just talking through this chart, that, oh, okay, when the teacher said this, what face did you make or how did you feel? And the child can just look at it and pinpoint, and even you can do the same. You can also share that, when I was playing with you, I made this face and I was feeling this. So this can be very, very useful. Even if the child doesn't know how to read, they can still look at the face and you can talk to them about that. Oh, what face did you make when this happened, or what face were you relating to when this happened? This becomes a very, very important tool, because then the child is able to be self-aware. um, being if the child is able to identify what they feel and also respond appropriately, that if I am feeling this way or the other person is feeling this way, how can I respond, or how should I respond? And a lot of self-awareness also happens. So talking about emotions is something I'll definitely recommend and emphasize on. um, then the other thing that is very, very important is, a lot of times when we as parents hear something, we obviously, because we care for our kids, we become very agitated, very stressed, very angry. And the first response usually is to blame the child, that, why did you do this, or why was you at that place, why didn't you do anything? A lot of times this happens. Refrain from blaming the child. Most of the kids do not share or would not like to share what's going on with their parents, is because either they feel too ashamed or they feel too scared to share it. And rightfully so, because as parents, we care, but we also project our emotions in a little scary way for them. So one tip would be that try to collect and calm yourself and then have a conversation with the child, and refrain from blaming. As much as internally you would like to blame the child that, you shouldn't have done this or it's because of you, try not saying it to the child, because then the child might not share anything with you or might feel very ashamed of anything that they're going through. Similarly, try to have a judgment-free conversation in the sense that try to understand where is the child coming from. Even if the child has made a bad decision or has done something not appropriate, try to understand what their thought process was so that you can also help them in changing it or help them in navigating better through it. And similarly, talk about impact and consequences. Like a lot of times, especially young kids, they might not understand what impact their actions can have on other people. They might think it's like a tiny thing, not a big deal, but it has a consequence on other people that they might not comprehend. So have a conversation about that with him. Always make the child try to understand. See, if you're doing this, then it's going to have this impact. If you're okay with it, or are you not okay with it, so that they can think a little bit through also. So impact and consequences conversation is something that's extremely important. The other thing which comes into resource building or solution would be take it seriously and believe your children. A lot of times as adults, when a child is sharing their experience, we can be very, very funnily dismissive, or we might not take it very seriously. So it's important for us to take it seriously, because in the world of a 7-year-old, that problem can be very, very serious. And it'll be very mean if we don't take it seriously. So try taking it seriously and believe what they're saying. After that, you can definitely do your fact check and everything, that whether it was actually true or not. But on the face value, take it seriously, believe it. The other thing that's extremely important would be to also have an understanding, or give the child an understanding of safe people apart from just the parents. Parents can have a lot of pressure on, like, for a child, just to know that, oh, I can share everything only with my parents, can also be very extremely pressurizing for the parent. And a lot of times there could be certain things that maybe the child doesn't want to share with the parents, or maybe they want a different perspective. So see if apart from parents, there are any other people or adults who you identify as safe for the child. It could be literally anyone. It could be a cousin. It could be a friend. It could be a grandparent. It could be a teacher in the school. But labeling that person as safe and letting the child know that, if sometimes we are not around as parents, or you want to share something with somebody, you can go to these people because these people are safe. Or you can go to or talk about certain things and take their perspective because they're safe people. So that the child also feels a little bit more resourceful, that they don't only have to rely on parents for everything. But if something happened in a school and immediately they want to probably tell to someone, there's one safe teacher or there's one safe person they can go to and have a conversation with. So that is something that's also something that we can do, and that's really helpful. That works really well. A tiny part with what can kids do, and this is very specific to young kids, is it's okay. Like we have to tell kids that it's okay to say no. If they're saying no, that doesn't mean they are weak. If they're saying no, that doesn't mean they are being rude. But a lot of times it's important to say no, and they can say no. And a lot of times kids are too scared to say no because their no is not very respected when they're saying it in front of adults. Because as adults, again, we can be very dismissive that no, you have to do it even you're saying no. And they lose the confidence of saying no, even in front of their friends. So even at home, if we can give them a space for certain things, that in these situations and spaces, if you are saying a no, I will respect it. That will help them boost their confidence also, and they can trust themselves that, okay, I can say no. Also, telling is not tattling is also something that we have to make the child understand. A lot of time kids think that, oh, if I'm going to tell my parents, other kids are going to make fun of me and, I will be a tattler or something like that. That's a tricky business to sort of make the child understand. A child might not agree with you, but we have to let the child know that if you're going through something, telling your parents or telling an adult is not tattling, and that adult could be anybody. If you want to tell it to your parents, go for it. Grandparents, go for it. A teacher, go for it. But some adult needs to know. And just the last part, and then we're gonna go and take up questions, will be parents' mental health. That parents are the one at the end of the day dealing with all of this, and just talking about it makes me extremely stressed and overwhelmed. I can't even comprehend how, as parents, you all take care of this. So it's wonderfully, stressfully amazing. But as parents, because we completely can imagine that it's extremely overwhelming and stressful to deal with all of this, check your well-being as well. A lot of times things might happen with your kids, or you will get to know that will make you feel really angry, really irritated, really upset, which is all completely okay. But take a moment or take some time to just comprehend and regulate your emotions, because in that moment when we are agitated, when we talk to the child, all of the agitation just goes completely to the child, which might not be very appropriate. But it's okay if things are making you overwhelmed. It's completely okay. uh, there are so many new things that are happening around, and as parents you have to constantly learn so many new things. It's a lot of information, and on internet, if you go, as much as internet is extremely useful for us to give tips, it's also extremely overwhelming. There's a lot of information overload on internet as well. Therefore things can be very confusing and very tricky at times. During that time, maybe try seeking help. When I say seeking help, it could be talking to a co-parent, talking to a teacher, talking to anybody that you feel like you want to maybe just have a perspective with. Even if you want to have talk to a therapist, go for it. But it's okay for you to talk about to other people, because relying only on the information that's available on internet can be very confusing, because a lot of misinformation is also there. And the last part that's very important, and I'm going to emphasize, is that you're not supposed to know everything. Just because you're a parent, just because you have to take care of this child now, it doesn't mean you are supposed to know everything, and you're supposed to know everything correctly. You're also learning as and when things are happening. You're bound to make certain mistakes. As long as parents you are mindful and you are willing to learn more things, that's more than enough. So don't take this pressure that you have to know everything and you have to be on the top of your game, because it's okay. No, like, you can make mistakes, have a discussion with the child. Even the child can make mistakes, and that's okay. So yes, I'm gonna pause right now and I'm gonna stop sharing my PPT. And okay, all right, okay. We can take up questions. And if there's any, I'm just gonna go through the chat box.
Yes, Poorvasha, we have a question here.
Okay.
It says, how to explain a 4-year-old kid what good and what bad things are, and how to make them, understand if they've done something wrong, something bad.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna answer this question in a way. So, what is a good thing or a bad thing is you'll be able to explain it a little better to a 4-year-old by giving examples. And that example could be in any form. Like nowadays, there's so much of media that's also available, and you can make the child see, or make the child maybe give an example um, about, this particular action might not be okay or might not be appropriate because this action has this consequence. So if the child is able to understand that what is the consequence of my action, they will be able to comprehend the idea of good and bad better. Also explaining probably why are you labeling it as a good or bad particular thing. What about that particular action is bad? We might think that a 4-year-old might not be able to comprehend it, but honestly, trust me, if we put it in a language which is simpler and easier, they are able to comprehend it very well in terms of what the action is and what is the consequence and why are we saying it, it's a bad thing. So if you can frame it in that way, then the child might understand it way more better. And also adding how it makes you feel. A lot of times letting the child know that, hey, what you did has this consequence, which means this made me feel sad, or this made me feel angry, or this made me feel hurt, might also help the child comprehend that, oh, this action makes other people feel hurt. So that's why maybe I shouldn't be doing it. So that might also help in comprehending, if that makes sense.
Your next participant is asking, how can you decide when you should intervene and when you should let them fight their own battles?
Yes, that's a little tricky one. I think more than identifying the difference between when you need to intervene versus when you need to let them fight their own battle, what probably would be more impactful would be letting them know this already, in the sense that letting them know that they can reach out to you whenever they're feeling stuck. What it does is that whenever they're feeling stuck and if they're reaching out to you with their problems, you as an adult probably can give them more resources than how to deal with it better. Because if you can identify that, okay, maybe they're struggling with certain situation where they can go and talk to the friend and they can tell the friend that, you can go and tell your friend that you don't like when your friend says something like that, or go and tell your friend that it's not okay. Those are the battles where the child is also learning how to be assertive. The child is also learning how to say no, and they can deal with it themselves. It doesn't seem like your intervention is extremely important there. So you as parents also, we would have to be a little bit um uh, like we have to cut a little bit of slack to our kids also, to let them try it first. And if they have tried it once, if they've tried it twice, and even after that they're still struggling with the same thing, then maybe you can intervene. But you can also check how much you want to intervene. Maybe you don't want to intervene completely. So say for example, because this question came, I can give you an example of, again, a recent incident. 7-year-old child, the mother told me that the child is dealing with the child is getting bullied in school, but the child didn't want to talk to me about it, or even from the mother, the child said, I don't want you to do anything. But the mother gave me an understanding, because the teacher told the mother that some kids are socially isolating your child. So see if you want to do something about it or not. And the mother was pretty confused whether I should intervene or not. So I spoke to the child, not in a way that whether you want me to do anything or not, but I spoke to the child that, what's going on, what does she feel, what would she like to do. So she said that she is very scared to tell her mom, because what if my mom goes and talks to my friend's mom, and then after that the friend won't talk to me ever again and I'll lose all my friends. That's the fear that the child was sitting with. And we were like, okay, maybe your mom will not talk to the child's mom, but would it be okay if your mom comes with you and your mom talks to the child that what you are struggling with? So she said that, okay, but once, only once, because I tried it multiple times, but my friend is not listening to me. So it would be okay if my mom can come and just have a conversation with the child that, the child says mean things to me and I feel really sad. So she agreed on that. So that was the level of intervention where the child was also comfortable with, and the parents also sort of intervened. So how much you would like to intervene is something you can always check, but also let the child know that they can reach out to you whenever they want. I think that really helps the child to feel confident.
Right. So next question is how to begin a conversation about being bullied with a child without using leading questions or putting words or ideas into their mind. What words can be used and what should be avoided?
I don't think any words needs to be avoided, to be very honest, when you're having a conversation with the child, because these are certain words that are important words and the child needs to know these words. And that's completely all right. I think one of the good ways that I identified that works really well to start or initiate a conversation with the child is to not make it about them, but make it about yourself. Like a lot of times I talk to the children and I'm like, oh, you know what? Something happened recently with me. There was my colleague, he was troubling me, he was pulling my hair. I didn't like it, but I didn't know what to do. So it made it about me, or any form of story is something that might really help the child to at least have a conversation about it. So even if the child doesn't want to make it about themselves or tell you that I am going through it, they will still give you hints that how much they are able to relate to that story, or how much what do they feel about that story. And very slowly and subtly then you can sort of dig a little bit more deeper, that oh, what part do you relate to, has it happened to you before, have you, or has it happened to any of your friend before, what do you do, what have you done. So you can slowly sort of nitpick a little bit, but I honestly don't think so there's any word that you need to be cautious about or avoid.
Okay. So next question is, you mentioned the reasons that can lead child to bullying others. What about the reasons or signs, traits of children who may be more vulnerable to being bullied or being picked on?
Right. So again, a child who might be more vulnerable to get picked on would be a child who in some way, and I'm going to use the word in some stereotypical way, a little different. Um, Whenever we as a group identify something which is a little different, we automatically pick on it because it's easier. It's an easier target. And that different could be in any shape or form. It could be differently looking child, differently behaving child, as small as that, oh, most of the kids are able to complete this particular subject faster, whereas this one or two kids, they do it a little slower. So if you ideally look at it, there's no difference. Like even these kids are doing things, but just because they're doing it a little slower, that's a little different as compared to the majority. So that is a good way for us to understand and navigate, because honestly, kids who are getting picked on, it's not because they are doing something wrong, but it's the only thing is they are a little different in some aspect with respect to the majority, and that just makes them an easy target.
Related to that question, our next question is coming up saying name calling was mentioned as something that causes self-esteem issues and stress. So what about casual, seemingly acceptable labels such as shy or introvert? The participant says her son is on the quieter side and have been told that he needs to be transformed to form an introvert to an extrovert. How to deal with this situation, especially from authority figures like teachers?
Right, right. So to be very honest, and I'm just giving a disclaimer, my answer not be very well received, but to be very, very honest, this entire categorization of kids being introvert and extrovert is nothing but extroverts are kids who are a little less expressive, and introverts are the kids who are a little less expressive, and extroverts are the kids who are a little bit more expressive. There's just a difference in expression, and a lot of times it's okay if a child is introvert. Like it's okay if the child doesn't want to interact with 20 other people. It's okay if the child wants to interact with only 2 or 3 people of their own setting, and it's okay. Uh, the thing with introversion is that we just have to check whether that introversion is coming from because the child is just shy and has a personality trait, or it's coming out of a lot of fear. Because a lot of times kids might be very scared to voice their opinion. Kids might be very scared of consequences or making a mistake. And because of that, kids might be introvert. So one way to work on it is to, rather than making the child an extrovert and pushing them to play with other kids or interact with other kids, work more on decision making for them, work more on opinion building for them, like expose them to more choices and teach them or help them not fear mistakes. Like if they're making a mistake, let them make a mistake. Teach them about consequences, but not through fear. And as in when you see a child is less scared of consequences of decision making, you'll automatically see that the child is being more assertive, the child is being more opinionated, the child is initiating more things. So introversion is nothing but a lot of fear in a child for various reasons. And if we can somehow work on reducing that fear and letting the child know that you don't have to be scared, they will automatically become more opinionated and assertive, even though if they're not extroverted per se.
Right. We have another question. It says how to make a 4-year-old aware that he has got control of his life. What activity should we give freedom on, and which activity should we not give freedom on?
Right. So with very, very young kids, I think one thing that works very, very beautifully is everyday choices and decision making, like very, very small and tiny spaces to make decisions. It could be as small as what do you want to wear today, or what color do you want to wear today, what snack do you want to eat today, what game do you want to play today, and what game do you want to play at this point, what book do you want to read, and just giving them choices. And because what it does is that when they are able to make choices, it boosts a lot of confidence in them that, oh, I can make decisions and people around me are respecting that decision, so they're not scared of it. So decision making and choices in very, very, very subtle and small ways on a very everyday basis will automatically help the child to be very confident and automatically help the child to be opinionated. And as and when the child grows more, you can always find more ways. Again, as parents, obviously you don't have to give them choices for everything. Like you can't be like, oh, today you decide what meal do you want to eat, because that's not going to work. But in spaces where you think the child can make decision and there's no repercussion to it, let them make those decisions. And a lot of times, it happens when kids, they ask the kids that today you decide what you want to wear, and it might be really sunny outside, but they like, oh, I want to wear a pajama. And if you let them wear a pajama and then they go outside and they experience that, oh, but I'm feeling hot now, they're automatically learning that, okay, next time when it's sunny, I don't have to wear a pajama. I have to wear probably shorts. So giving them these kind of spaces automatically advocates a lot of confidence in them. So very, very simple. It doesn't have to be external games or anything, but just everyday choices that you do and give them.
Poorvasha, the question asked earlier, I guess the parent wanted to ask if, a lot of time teachers label our children as ye bacha extrovert hai, ye bacha introvert hai. When such label is done, how to deal with that?
Okay. So to be very honest, in that situation now, there are two aspects that come into play. One is a little bit of a social aspect, and one is the internal aspect of how you as a parent, you are dealing with it. Because see, to be very honest, you as a parent can only protect to some extent. After that, if the child is going out and if the teacher is saying something or the friends are saying something, you really can't do a lot about it. So again, if the teacher is labeling the child as extrovert or introvert, of course we're going to try to understand why the label exists at the first place. And as parents, you also understand why that label exists at the first place. But if you identify that there's nothing inappropriate about it, or it's okay, like the child is confident at the same time, but just chooses to be a little shy or a little introvert, you can always have a conversation about it with the teacher. That, hey, listen, like if you as parent, you are okay with it and you are telling the teacher that, hey, I am okay with it, and can you please not maybe let the child, use this label with the child. I don't think so the teachers would have a problem, because most of the time teachers put this or tell this to the parents so that they are aware of it and if they need to do something about it. So as parents, it's firstly for you to navigate whether you are okay about it or not. And if you have checked that it's okay, the child is not struggling with something, and it's okay for the child to be introvert, then you can let the teachers also know that, listen, it's okay. I don't have a problem with my child struggling, or as in, I don't have a problem with my child being an introvert because the child is not struggling, to be very honest. But yes, if you identify that that introversion is coming out of fear, then definitely there's something that we would have to work on as teachers and parents collaboratively.
Okay, here we have a compliment, Poorvasha. One of our participant is, congratulating you for such an informative session. Mr. Abhishek, I would like to tell you that yes, we have a part 2 of this webinar. I will give you more details, but stay tuned in. The next question, Poorvasha. The next question, Poorvasha, is if one of a child's school friend is spreading false rumors and information about a son, then in that case, what should a parent do?
Okay. So to be very honest, in that situation, it depends on what kind of rumor, honestly, the other friend is spreading. And to be very, very honest, in these situations, I personally feel it's a good idea to have a conversation with the other child's parent as well. Because if the child is very young, again, as I mentioned, the child might not understand the gravity of it. For them, it might be a silly rumor or it might be a joke, but the child might not understand that what impact it can have on the other child, whose rumor it is. And that a child can probably won't be able to deal with it. Like your child probably will just be able to tell that, hey, please don't do it. I don't like it. Or I do not like this particular rumor that or maybe just try to, the child can tell their friends that, this is not a true rumor. This is not what I am like. But apart from that, there's nothing much that child will be able to do. So see if in that case, you would like to connect with that child's parent so that the parent is also aware that, hey, listen, your child might be spreading a little bit of a rumor. Can we work around it? It doesn't have to be a blame situation, but to have a conversation around it, because we don't know if the child also knows what they're trying to do or what the gravity of the situation is. So maybe intervening is something that can be done.
All right. I think we have come to an end with the questions asked. Participants, if you have any further questions, we have covered what all was there in the chat box. Yeah, I think it's done.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
let me do the formalities. So officially, thank you so much, Poorvasha, as we come to an end of today's session on understanding bullying, fostering for childhoods. I extend our sincere thanks to Ms. Poorvasha Mathur for the clarity, empathy, and relatability with which she navigated through this complex topic. Poorvasha, your insights into emotional world of children, the root causes of bullying, and the role of parents in fostering safer environments have offered meaningful takeaways for all of us. I think. And to all my participants, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. We hope the session was helpful and it would reflect, gain perspective, and help feel better and equipped to support your child's emotional and social well-being. And we're so pleased to share with you that we have the next webinar, and it's a continued part of this conversation, which topic is the bullying paradox, what parents should do. A session focused on practical strategies and responses for parents navigating bullying situations. So this is a very important piece of information for us as parents and caregivers. Please do join us for this on July 25th at 6 p.m. and we'll be sharing the registration details with you all in the due course. Also, please take a moment to share your feedback through the link provided with us in the chat box to let us know how we can make future sessions more meaningful for you all. Or if you have any questions or you would like to speak to us, please reach out to us on 600 3700. I thank you once again for joining with us at VIBGYOR Group of Schools. We remain committed to bringing out expert-led thoughtful sessions to support every aspect of the child learning and growth. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you.